We have quite a few people on the line this morning, so please, as we go along, do get those questions in. We're going to queue them up and answer them in the order in which they are received. Our agenda today is very simple. I'm going to go through just a few brief slides to show you what we've added to version 9.0. Then we're going to actually show you those features, and then we're going to hold all questions and feedback until the end. We do anticipate quite a few questions this morning, so we encourage you to get those cards and letters in as quickly as possible. Now, we're very excited about what we're going to show you today. This is a result of many months of concerted effort, and we've got quite a few very important substantial features that we've added to version 9. Now, you might ask, what more can we actually add to Iron Speed Designer? Isn't pretty much everything in there already? Well, not quite. We've heard from a number of customers, and this is a very representative quote, that they really use Iron Speed Designer as a competitive advantage, and they even kind of keep it kind of quiet under the hood that they're using Iron Speed Designer to build applications. And as we talk to people, we find there are actually quite a few more interesting things that we can add to Designer, and we've added some of those in version 9. So where are we going? Well, quite simply, there's a big expansion beyond the web into smartphones and into the cloud, and that's a lot about where Iron Speed Designer is going to be going over the next little while. We're introducing the first piece of that today with our ability to generate applications for very small portable platforms, namely smartphones, by creating mobile applications. Now, I'm not going to go through any more slides about mobile applications. That's one of those things that's better shown than talked about here, but I think you'll find the demonstration we have for our mobile application this morning to be quite exciting. But we've added quite a few other things. Namely, we've added Google-like search to Iron Speed applications if you're using Microsoft SQL Server. The great thing about this is that you can enter a variety of different terms. So, for example, you could type in Alan Fisher, and it would come back with a list of all the database records that contain the words Alan and Fisher, and ranked in terms of their proximity to each other. If you want an exact match, you can put quotes around it. If you want all the entries that have Alan but not Fisher, then you'd put a minus before it and so forth. So very Google-like functionality there. We've also expanded or built upon the charting capability that was introduced in version 8 of Iron Speed Designer. By popular demand, we've added two very important features. The first is time-based charts, meaning, month, day, year, quarter, that sort of thing. And we've made those charts scrollable, so you can scroll back and forth in time to look at the data. We've also made the charts drillable, meaning you can click on a pie or click on a bar and click through to the underlying data that constitutes that particular element. We've also added a host of additional features that make applications just a little more robust. For example, a lost username and password feature. Modest though it may be, it's actually one of the features that we've had quite a bit of positive feedback on since we released Iron Speed Designer last week. So it's one of those things that just makes the application a little more rounded. We've also expanded the use of rich text editors. We realized not everyone was happy with the use of FCK Editor, so we've added its successor, CK Editor, a new one, Qt Editor, and we also support the built-in Ajax HTML rich text editor that comes with the .NET framework. So it's really up to you which option you want. You just select those in the application generation options, and away you go. We've also added Microsoft SQL Server CE support. CE support is obviously the compact edition support, and we also support Microsoft SQL Server for Microsoft Azure, their cloud-based platform. Now, we've also introduced a new tool that is actually kind of hard to describe, and it's one of those things that, again, we'll probably have to really show you in order to appreciate it, but we've had a lot of positive feedback on this, and that's the Batchmeister wizard. And what the Batchmeister wizard does is it applies things globally to your application. So let me give you a couple of examples. Suppose you want to apply a where clause globally into all tables that have certain fields by field name or whatever. So suppose you want to filter all of your tables by the logged in user because you're building a customer-facing or employee-facing application. You only want to present that particular user's data. What you might do is globally apply a where clause that says where customer ID equals logged in user. You can do that with the Batchmeister wizard. Or say that you want to implement an audit trail. So you want to go through, and every table that's got a created by or an updated by field, you want to say, apply a formula to that to do set up an initial value. So for example, you want to initialize it to the formula equal logged in user, or in the case of a created on or updated on, equal now, meaning current date stamp. And so the Batchmeister wizard will go through all of your tables at the data access layer, identify all of the created on, created by, updated by fields, and apply that particular formula that you've established. It's also great for implementing data validation. Again, if you have a particular field that you want to validate, say at the UI level globally, you can go through and do that with the Batchmeister wizard. So we'll have a good demo of that so you can kind of see it in action. Okay, with that, I'm going to switch over now to Jim Dempsey, who's going to give you a very compelling demonstration on version 9's mobile application generation. Jim?
Thanks, Alan. Well, the world is changing. It's moving toward mobile, and so is Iron Speed with version 9. You're going to be finding that more and more of your end users of your applications are going to want or even expect that your Iron Speed applications support mobile phones. So we really see that trend happening. Although I think in the software development world, for us, we're going to be using grandpa boxes for a while longer. So what I'm going to cover here, I'm going to go through a few slides to give you some background and answer some of the questions you might have about mobile, and then I'm going to do a demo. Basically, I'll talk about what's special about smartphones that we're addressing in 9.0, and why we're targeting web pages on smartphones rather than native apps and tablets. I'll talk about the mobile platforms that we're emphasizing with 9.0, and I'll give you an overview of the product changes for 9.0. Then I'll give a demonstration where I create a mobile application with Iron Speed 9.0. And please, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but they'll be toward the end of the webinar. But submit them along the way so we can get them ready. Okay. Well, smartphones have special needs, obviously, compared to desktop computers with their large displays. You obviously have a much smaller display on the phone, a smaller keyboard, and you might be on the go. So you really need a specialized application. And in the past, we've had customers of Iron Speed use the product to create applications for smartphones, but it was not something easy to do, particularly to create something that was easy to use and nice to look at. So with 9.0, we really made the goal that we wanted easy out-of-the-box mobile phone applications. And I want to emphasize that we're talking about smartphones. Tablets with the larger displays tend to use the same HTML pages that you might send to a desktop computer. In fact, that's what we saw happening on the web. Major websites were giving the iPad the same content that the desktop would get, while it's the iPhone and the other smartphones that really need special content. So that's what we're targeting here with 9.0 smartphones. And you might be curious about native apps that you've heard about on mobile devices. That's not what we're doing here in 9.0. Iron Speed has always generated web pages for your application. So we're generating web pages that run on your Safari, your Android browser. We've found that if you want to get an application certified by Apple, that's a pretty involved process. It's not a 2-minute application generation process like we do in Iron Speed. In terms of the platforms that we've been looking at, we picked out the two to emphasize the most were Apple iOS and Google Android, that they really have been the market leaders for web browsing on smartphones. BlackBerry has had a large market share but has been used more for messaging. So we've focused our efforts on those two. But that being said, you'll see the small mobile pages that we've created in 9.0. These are much better suited for any mobile device than the full-size web pages we've traditionally created. So we do make an effort to detect any of the major smartphones out there on the market and give them the smaller mobile pages, which will be better. Now here's an overview of the changes you'll see in 9.0 for mobile. The biggest thing is that we've got 4 new page types for mobile, CRUD pages. And these are really the most different page types we've created in a long time because they need to be very simplified to work on the small screen. So see a show table, and I'll show you in just a little while the three record pages that go with that. Now, along with that, there's a set of mobile-specific headers, footers, master pages, menus, and so forth to support that. We also decided that we would support all current page styles for mobile. So that means it's an easy application migration. You can take an 8X application, migrate it to 9.0, and easily add mobile pages to it. There's also a new live preview, which I'll show, which gives you an approximation what the pages would look like on an actual mobile phone. Something I really want to emphasize is that with 9.0, with mobile, we're really leveraging the existing features that are in Designer, so that the same features that you have for full-size web pages, you can use for mobile, and they'll work the same way. For example, layout customization for mobile pages is done in the same design mode that you're used to. Role-based security is done in the same wizard. I'll give you a peek at that later. And mobile supports multilingual, even right-to-left languages. And mobile automatically supports the same databases supported by the full-size web, including the new Azure NC that Alan talked about. And in terms of code generation, mobile supports both the C# and the VB generation options you choose. And lastly, the base class's architecture used by the generated applications has not changed for mobile. So that means if you know how to customize code for 8.0 for web full-size applications, you can easily do it for mobile. Okay, so let's do a demo here. I got Iron Speed 9.0 installed on my computer, fresh install from last night, the exact same one you're getting from the internet here. And I'm going to create a new application with the application wizard using the Mana theme, the new theme we have in 9.0 that supports mobile as well. I'm going to just use the sample Southwind database, access database. And it's only the pages step that's been impacted by mobile. If you look there, you'll see at the bottom a list of the pages we've had in the past. We have a new mobile section, which has 4 new pages, exactly the ones I mentioned just a moment ago. And they're on by default. If you don't want them, if you want a mobile-only or non-mobile application, you could turn them off. So I'm going to add just a few tables here, and our application will be building. And then I'll figure out what to talk about for a minute or two here. Okay. So that was the only change from mobile to the application wizard. You're going to see throughout Design, if you used it before, that there's little changes sprinkled throughout the product. So I'm going to take a moment here to create the application, but the things I want to point out while that's happening is that with mobile we have a second start page being added to your application, and that's mobile specific. I'll show you that in just a minute. And one thing that's special about that is that it has the menu in it. For mobile pages, it just was not feasible to have your show table and your menu on the same page like you do with web. So you'll see that the start page is actually dedicated to the menu. Now we can already see the application taking shape here behind us. Hopefully you can see the tree view there, and you'll notice these cute little icons in the tree that are new, and I know kind of look like ladybugs, but those are phones. I'm going to just stay inside Design and use the live preview. And actually, our application is already built here. We're actually being taken to a full-size web page, which is the default when you go into Iron Speed Designer. This is using Mana, so the look and feel is a little bit different, but it's basically the size that you're used to. And you can really see by looking at this that this would not really work very well on an iPhone or an Android, and hence the reason for the 9.0 mobile functionality. So let's take a look at the start page for mobile, and you'll now see the live preview that I mentioned. It gives you an idea on how things would look on a smartphone. It supports portrait and landscape modes, and it's a simplified menu. There's one menu item per table. There are no submenus here. We really needed to keep it simple, easy to point and click on. So if I press anywhere on the menu item, it'll take me to that page. So here we are. We're there at the show categories table for mobile, and you can see what I mean about the differences in the templates being the most significant in a long time. It's a very different layout from the page we just looked at for full-size web. And I'll just point out some of the differences. The pagination control is a simplified control. You can make that more complex if you wish. And obviously the fields are just a subset of fields that we've automatically selected to show. And everything is arranged in a vertical order. We've gone to great lengths to ensure that everything fits on the screen precisely, and that you're scrolling vertically and not having to scroll both vertically and horizontally, which would be kind of difficult if you're on the go. So other things in here, if you're looking for filtering, searching, and sorting, that's been tucked away in an expandable panel here. It's all the same functionality that you have in the full-size web. You can do range filters, all that kind of stuff is tucked away in there. And if you're looking to create new records, just press that plus button, and there's the Add Record page that I mentioned. We'll go back, and then if you want to drill down and see the details of a particular record, you can just, like with the menu, just press anywhere on that area. Let's look at beverages, and here's the new show record page. You'll see that the fields are lined up in one column vertically. You can even download attachments if your phone supports that. And we have child table support. You can have multiple child tables in there, like a pagination, and you can drill down by clicking into them. And also from here, you can delete records as a confirmation, and you can go and edit the record as well. So let's back up. And that's the basic show table CRUD pages in 9.0. The menu button obviously takes us back to the menu start page. And we could go and look at other tables. Here's one that does not have a photo, so it's a different format, but essentially the same functionality, and everything's consistent. So that's the basic CRUD page demo. Now, one thing I wanted to just give you a peek at, I'm not going to build it right now, but just to point out, the application security wizard. I mentioned that we have role-based security support in 9.0 for mobile, and that is through the same exact application security wizard that you use for the full-size pages. It just does double duty now. There are no changes actually to the user interface of the wizard. It's just that if we were to press finish, it would generate a separate set of pages for mobile. There would be a sign-in page, a sign-out page, and there's also a new forgot user page. So, 9.0 mobile is supporting all the same features that are supported by the full-size web. So that's basically how you create a mobile application. In fact, this is an application that's both mobile and web. They coexist peacefully together in the same application. So there's lots more I'd like to show you, but I really would like to save time for the rest of the presentation and also for Kirill to go over all the other features in 9.0. But I'll be happy to answer questions after we finish all those demonstrations and show you more depending upon what you're interested in. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kirill Dmitriev, and I'll go through some other features which we already mentioned, but I just want to show how they look like. But first of all, let me connect to my computer now. So just give me 1 second. I will stop to my computer. And we will look at Designer, but not on the okay, 1 second. Oh, now it's good. And we will go through Designer with the features which are everything else but mobile. And almost there. Here we are. Okay, so as Alan already mentioned, we have a bunch of other new features in the 9.0, and I will go one by one through those. And let me start with the new charts. In 9.0, I'm already thinking about next releases, so forgive me for mixing up the numbers. So in the new release, in the version 9.0, we introduced 2 new features in the charts. First of all, now, as you can see on this picture, it is a live running chart on the page which I created literally 2 minutes ago. This chart shows you time progress. Effectively, right now, the chart shows you what was the amount of products sold in this certain period of time, like in these 3 years, for example. And it has its own pagination control, which now allows you to move in the period of time. For example, I can say, okay, I don't want yearly sales, I want quarterly sales. I click on a quarter, and I need to go to the different period of time. So right now I see the quarters. You see the quarters from the 96, quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 98. I can go further and back. As you can see, I'm moving in the timeline effectively, and which is more, so I can change granularity. I can change from years to quarters to months and to weeks. So for example, right now I can go and say, now is my monthly sales, right? But I also can zoom in effectively. So for example, I want to see what are the data underlying this particular sales in the May of 97. Well, 97 is maybe a bit old, but it's one of the standard Northwind databases, so we never updated the data themselves. So if I click on this bar, I will effectively will get the control with all the sales in this particular period of time, meaning in the May of 97. So I just can zoom in and look on those orders. So here are order details for all the orders in this particular month. So these are two new features. Again, you can create a chart with the timeline, so a time progress chart effectively, and you can zoom into any chart, not necessarily on the time progress chart. The way how you create it is effectively the same, so there is nothing really specific. You just drag and drop the chart from the toolbox, and then right here you can select either the same type of chart as were created before, or you can say I want this time progress chart by date, and I want to use time interval. That's all it takes, and everything else will be created for you. So this is one nice extension of the chart functionality. Another very important feature, and we think it's pretty powerful and useful feature, especially when you develop application for the corporate usage, or even more for the multi-tenant usage, is so-called Batchmeister Wizard, or BMW for short. If you go to the Batchmeister Wizard, you can see that it has three different tabs for initialize, validate, and where. Both of them have a global settings for the across the whole application. For example, I can set, and I can do it literally right now, that if on any field, anywhere in my tables, in any table, I will, excuse me, if on any table in my database, I will see the field called created on, I want to initialize this field, for example, to today, or maybe if this field is date time, I might change it and initialize it, for example, to now. Now, any field in any table which has this particular name will be initialized this way. Similarly, I can set that if I see the field created by, and again, in any table, doesn't matter how many tables will have this field, but anytime I see this field, I can initialize it to user ID. This kind of global initialization is extremely useful, for example, for implementation of audit trail. So right now, it's just a couple of clicks and all your audit fields are initialized across the whole application. Similarly, you can have global validation. This is one of the examples. Imagine that I have human resource application, and in different tables I have a birth date field. Well, I want to validate birth date field the way that it never in the future, because birth date should already happen sometime. So I can make this global validation rule where birth date, if it is bigger than today, so it is in the future, then I will pop up the error message. Otherwise, it's fine. Finally, the global where clause. Extremely useful feature if you want to implement such things as, for example, multi-tenant application. Or not necessarily multi-tenant. There's a lot of applications when you want to be able to filter records by, for example, user or department. So you can, for example, have the clause something like this, that if your table has a specific field, then implement the where clause. For example, imagine that I have a field which is not necessarily company ID for multi-tenant apps, but maybe just a company. And my record in my database, which is responsible for the user, for example, this record could have information about the company this user belongs to. In this case, I can implement this global where clause so that anytime when my table has this company field, it will only retrieve records where the company is equal to the company where logged in user belongs to. So all this long sentence I just said is just one where clause which is set right here. Alternatively, for example, you want to show only records for specific department. You might want to show, for example, to people from accounting one set of records and from the engineering different set of records. Again, global where clause allows you just set it right here in this wizard, and then it will be applied for each table in the application where this field is present. So this is a Batchmaster wizard, which allows you to set a global where clause, global initialization rules, and global validation. I can click finish, but I'm not going to go through all live demonstrations of it, just there's not much time, but believe me or not, it works. Now, another very nice feature which we think will be very useful is full text search. As you might know, Microsoft introduced a full text search in the SQL Server 2005 and developed it in 2008. We support only 2008 and further, so 2008, 2008 R2, 2010, and so on, because Microsoft changed quite a bit going from the initial implementation 2005 to 2008. And if you happen to have Server 2008 and you created full text search catalog inside the SQL Server, then you can use this functionality right in the generated application. For example, in my database, I have several tables, and one of them, employees table. I set up the full text search for the couple of fields. Notes and notes what. Notes is a text field and notes what is a binary field which contains the Word file. And both of them have full text search enabled. I didn't do anything inside the designer, so I just built this application, didn't literally touch anything, but designer recognized that the schema itself has the full text search enabled, so it applied the full text search capability. Now let me go to the group by employees table. I have a search filter over here, and what I did with this search filter, I added these two fields, which have full text search enabled, notes and notes what. Now let's go to the live preview, and I will just show you how the full text search works. Effectively, it gives you capability of using Google-style search. So this is my fields, notes and notes what Word document. It actually works on both. For example, let me search for university. And then I see all those records because all these people have a note education for the word university. You can see university over here. You can see university over here, and so on. Now let me add something else. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many? 6 records, right? Now I just add one more word, and I said university plus let's say international, because I see that some of them have the word international. It's not next word to university, it's just the word in text. So let's see international now. Now let's search for university international. I have less records now, only 3 of them, because all those guys have international somewhere in this node field. Now let me say I want everybody who has university and international, but nobody who has something like psychology. You see my Nancy Davolio has psychology. So let me say minus psycho. Oops, mistyped. Sorry. Psychology. Hopefully did not mistype. You see, Nancy is gone because minus means that this word shouldn't be used in the search. And you can do all other type of things which you could do in Google, for example. You can say that I want these 2 words to be only near, meaning records where 2 words are literally in the same sentence, or exclude the whole exact pattern or something like this. Couple of more features. First of all, we added support for several new rich text editors. Before we supported only FCK editor, but FCK editor support has been discontinued by the team who created the editor, leaving the number of different bugs unfixed. So we decided to move on, and now we have support for, you can see it here, if I go to any field which could be edited by FCK, by rich text editor, for example, employees field, and the field is notes, right? If I go to notes field, here I can select which editor I want to use to edit it. So actually I need to go to editable record right here, notes. editor type, right? Now, in the drop-down list, you can see that now I have available the default editor, which is by default also ASP multi-line. It's Ajax Toolkit editor. It's a pretty simple one, and it's included in the Ajax Toolkit. So when you create application, you don't have any additional libraries or code which increases the size of the application. But you also have a choice of CK editor, which is the new editor from the same team of the guys who created SCK editor. And you also have a choice of Qt editor and HTML editor. So Qt editor may be the most powerful out of all those. CK editor is very similar to the FCK editor, so you kind of have similar functionality and look and feel. But those two, Qt editor and CK editor, will require to purchase a license for them. It's a product which requires the license from the manufacturer. We do not supply, of course, the license because license is pure application, but it's fairly easy just to go to their website and just download the license. So you can do that at any moment. Iron Speed Designer will generate, however, all the code for you. As soon as you purchase a license and put DLL inside the bin folder, Iron Speed Designer will recognize it and will be able to generate the code for this editor. All the controls will be generated properly. Finally, I wanted to mention the new feature for the security layer which we added. Now, when you when you configure security for the application, you are able to select email field over here. And if you select it, you can leave it blank. You don't necessarily need to select it. But if you selected that your table which you use for the user configuration has email field, like in my case, I used employees table, which in this case has email field. Then, if I configure this field, my application will get functionality, so-called forgot password functionality. So, for example, if I right now go to sign-in page and I completely forget my password as login, maybe, I can click on this link, and I will see this nicely formatted page where I can just type in my email, and whatever accounts I do have in this table will be sent to me. So I will get email with my login password information, which have the same record as my email. I could have more than one, for example. Of course, you can see here Google captcha control, which prevents from the auto-fishing from the robot to fish for the account. This control is built in automatically. However, you would need to put private and public key before you actually run the application. So I would say these were all the features which I wanted to show in the new 9.0 edition. And now Alan will take the word.
Great, thanks. What we're going to do is divide up the questions this morning. So in keeping with practice, I'm going to answer all the easy questions first, and then we'll switch to Jim to answer the mobile questions that have come in, and then to Kirill to answer a number of others. Sandy L. asks, when will documentation be ready? Documentation was ready when we shipped version 9 last week, so that's available on our website. Simply go to the online help page in our website, which you can do here. Let me just bring that up. And what I'm going to do is click through here, and if you go in here to the online help, you can see that, so you can actually view and download different formats for that. Marcel R. asks, where can I download the sample applications? The sample applications aren't quite ready yet. We should have those available in a few days, so just stay tuned. We traditionally release those within a week or two after we put out a new release. They'll be updated with version 9. Of course, you can always migrate a version 8 sample application, or you can just wait a few more days and we'll have the version 9 sample applications ready. John K. asks, how difficult is it to migrate an Iron Speed Designer version 6.2.1 application to version 9.0? Well, actually, it's fairly straightforward. The migration facility in Iron Speed Designer has been designed to actually not touch or disturb your application except on a page-by-page basis when you go in to edit or modify that particular page. So you really have to answer that question in two different parts. The first is modifying a page. The other is code customization. The code model is the same starting in version 4 all the way through version 9. So your code customizations should automatically work. There's really no change that you need to do there. In terms of page customization, as I mentioned, we don't migrate any of your pages unless you go into the layout editor in version 9 and then start to make a modification. Now, since you have a version 6.2, the layout is a little bit different. So your layout may be updated to a current layout at the moment that you start to edit that in the layout editor. The layout editor will show you a pro forma version of that. Again, you're not compelled to make any changes. You can look at what it will look like and then make any changes accordingly. But if you just have an app and you don't want to make any changes to it except on a case-by-case basis, just open it up in version 9 and you should be okay. Wendy asks, if I have a license for version 8.1, how do I upgrade to version 9? Well, that's quite simple. If you have an active software update subscription, then simply go to your account at Iron Speed, go to your My Account page, and you'll find a version 9 product key there for you. Then simply download Iron Speed Designer version 9 from our website, put that version 9 product key in, and you're good to go. If you don't have an active software update description, then simply contact your account manager at Iron Speed. They'll be happy to accommodate you. You'll need to buy an update subscription, and then you'll automatically get a key with that. You can also buy those update subscriptions directly from our pricing and ordering page here. So let me just click through there. If you go through to the perpetual license, which is, it sounds like what you have, you can go down here and see the update subscription options. David Franklin says, Batchmeister Wizard is awesome. Just wanted to say, well, thanks very much, David. We appreciate that feedback. Franklin also asks, is there a V9 edition for developers? I'm not quite sure what that question means. Iron Speed Designer is for developers that builds .NET applications. So perhaps if you can re-ask your question with a little more detail, we'll see if we can answer that. Okay, with that, I'm going to switch over to Jim Dempsey here, who will answer a suite of mobile questions.
Thanks, Alan. We have a bunch of great mobile questions I'm going to answer here. The first one is from John P. The screen size is small. How is this addressed in smartphone apps? And I think that came out kind of early, maybe during the presentation, but I do want to point out a few things in mobile. Notice I mentioned that the menu is in a separate page. We could not squeeze that into the same page as your CRUD pages. If you wanted to, you could move stuff around, but that's the out-of-the-box thing. Also, I showed you on the show table, we're using a collapsible panel there for the filters. We didn't want to have that be distracting. And there's also a collapsible panel that you can't see here because I haven't used the features, but on the main start page, there's a collapsible panel for changing the language if you did a multilingual application or did a variant page style to pick colors, the theme on that. So that's just a few of the areas that we're using. A big thing is we're also lining up the fields vertically. We're not putting multiple fields across, and we've had to be really judicious, in being economical in what fields we put up. So, next question: are there plans to support mobile hardware features such as camera, GPS, wireless radio, etc.? Very simply, a web-style feature. That's from LES. That's a great question, and those are things we've thought about. And mobile was really a feature where we could have really just worked on it for 5 years and came up with everything under the sun, and things probably would have evolved during the time frame. So we really set out to meet this core requirement. We want the applications to work on a small mobile device, really well, be elegant, and whatever functionality we can do along the way is great. But we weren't really looking to extend the product in every other direction for 9.0. Going forward, we can look at different things. For example, we're looking at geolocation. That's something that's particularly interesting for mobile devices. And a lot of these things can be done in a web type of environment. Now, some of the things that I mentioned, these might be things that would be more suited for native applications running, and that's something else that we've looked at. What if we ran inside a native application shell? So we could go that route too in the future. I think we're going to really have to see. Because another area too is tablets. We haven't done anything specific to tablets in 9.0, so we have to kind of pick our battles. Another one of them is HTML5, which people might be curious about, and that's something too where we could add new features. So we're considering all these things, just that we're going to have to pick which ones we want to do. So next question, this is from Wayne T. Mentions a few URLs, company learning objects, and something else. So I'm going to have to look at that, look up those links later offline, and get back to him on that. Next question from LES again. Is there support for handling connected versus disconnected databases, keeping in mind that devices can be in and out of a signal range and may not have a connection at some times? This is another great question, and it's something we've thought about. It's definitely a concern with mobile applications, while it generally would not be for a desktop application. And it's actually something that I'm not saying disconnect data sets necessarily, but in HTML5 they are trying to address unreliable networks. So that may be the way we go about it in the future going forward. But the short answer to the question is we're not doing anything specific for mobile. It's working with databases the same way for mobile as it does for web. Next question is from LES as well. Any plans to access local mobile device file system for use in uploading files, photos to the server? A great question. It's one of those things, if I had an hour to talk about mobile, we definitely cover. In fact, you can upload files with Android devices. We tested upload and download, and that works fine. Apple iPhone is a different story. The Safari web browser has never, on the mobile iPhone, has never supported file upload for some reason. It would seem to be a logical thing to support access to the camera roll and upload photos there. So, but we've tested. We were hoping iOS 5 would add that functionality to Safari. It did not, for some mysterious reason. So we are looking at ways of getting around that. There are plugins to handle that. There are also other web browsers that could do that as well. And so I'd say at this point that probably would be the best approach for the iPhone. I can't think of the name, but there's a browser out there that does do file upload. It's really a nicer one than Safari in some ways. But that's only on Apple that there's that limitation, and it's all over the internet. Everybody's talking about it. So, and you can download files on the iPhone with Safari. And it's not a true download. It's a preview. You can see the file. There's no download manager, but you can definitely look at like Word 2003 and PDF files. We did test that. Okay, here's a good question from Alfonso D. Is mobile included in the free version? Actually, there is no longer a free version of Iron Speed. It's a trial version, which means you get 100 builds from it, and then you hopefully buy the product. But anyway, in terms of the trial version, it supports mobile only for the sample databases. So if you use the Southwind of the job application databases for your a test application, you can use virtually every feature in the normally available in the enterprise feature. Now, if you do your own custom database, no, you can't do mobile pages with that. So if you're really looking to see how mobile is going to look with your particular application or your database, you might want to consider a subscription. But the look and feel is very consistent. You saw with the different Southwind databases that unless you have a photo in there, it's going to look pretty much the same, and you're probably going to customize which fields are shown anyway. Okay, next question is from Larry G. Are there any sample apps on the Iron Speed website that I could use to demo via iPhone or iPad? Alan already touched on the sample apps. We are working on those, so we'll hope to have them out soon. And they will have pages in there for mobile. We're going to create mostly an out-of-the-box application, so it's just going to have mobile stuff right in there from the beginning. Now, I mentioned that these 9.0 is targeted towards smartphones, not tablets. So you typically would use those on an iPhone, not necessarily on an iPad. Next question is from Wendy. Is the same URL for both mobile and web? Great question, and I've actually got Iron Speed up here so I can kind of walk you through the answer. The answer is yes and no. That there is a common URL, default ASPX, for the application. I just clicked on that, and I'm on a desktop environment with live preview, so I was taken to the web desktop in the full-size start page here. You can see that indicated by the green icon. And, of course, the Start Mobile is the mobile start page. So there are two different URLs to start up those two different applications, if you will, but there is a common URL you can point people to. And based upon the device, it'll take them to the appropriate URL. So, yes, you have a common URL, but you also have URLs specific to the device size. Next question is from Sandy L. Will mobile app run on an iPad? Great question. Yes, it will run on an iPad. The thing is that, do you want it to run on an iPad? You have a larger display, 1024 by 768. Do you want to run, just a one-screen menu like this, or the simplified show table? You might find your users are better served with the full-size web page with maybe a few adjustments. But that's your call. By default, Iron Speed will not send iPad users to the mobile application. If you want to change that, it's very easy to do. Just go into your application's web.config file and search for iPhone. It's a pipe limited list. Just add iPad onto there. Next question from Jeremy Scrime. Does the charting functionality work on mobile pages? Great question. Essentially, all the features that are available in the full-size web work in mobile, including charting. Even the new charting features, the time-based charts that Carol mentioned before. So you can do all those in mobile. There are a few things that are a little bit different. Well, there's a different pagination control for mobile to fit in the compact size, and there's I think that the clicking on the bars isn't something that's done in mobile, or at least out of the box. Those are the pop-up windows it was creating. We really tried to not have any pop-up windows in mobile. But yes, you can definitely do charting, and yeah, we did some work on that to make things look, the right size and everything. Let's see. Oh, and actually, Jim A. asked the same question. Will charting be supported in mobile apps? Absolutely. Next question from Wendy. Do we need to do an installation on the phone device? Great question. If we did a native application, you would need to install an app. And that's a major reason for not requiring, an app to run an application, because you have to do the installation, and then after you have so many apps on a device, it just creates a lot of clutter and all of that. So no, for 9.0, we're creating just web pages, so all you need to do is give people a URL, and they can run your application over the Internet. Next question from David W. If an application has both standard and mobile pages, is there auto-detect logic in the default ASPX to select and display appropriate pages? Yeah, I mentioned this just a moment ago. Yes, there is. It looks at the user agent sent by the browser, and there's a list of devices that we auto-detect as mobile. Everything else is considered full-size web. And again, that's in the web.config file. You search for iPhone, you'll see the list. And we've tried to include in that list major smartphones that are currently out there. Obviously, there's been a lot of mobile phones, over the years, but we're looking to really get the latest ones in there. And I'm trying to run through these questions as quickly as I can, as they keep coming in here. Next question is Larry M. Can you show on the mobile how to save, and can you create your own buttons to do a workflow-style mobile site? Okay. Mobile, how to save? Well, have a show table page. Actually, we'll do a save. Let's create a new record here. Jim's new record. I'm just going to do something real quick here since I can't type. Oh yeah, another thing we did, going back to an early question to save space, is we're using icons for the buttons, you'll notice, for the most part in mobile. We had used words, and we just, were afraid that, when we translated these words to German or something, that they were just going to become, huge buttons, and it was going to take up too much space. So we are using icons. Okay, so I'm adding a record here to the table, and I can go edit it. That's pretty straightforward. In case you're curious about how I would do any of that manually, let's see if I can get things to show here in this presentation environment. Trying to find my toolbox here. Sorry about that. There it is. I've got a smaller screen now. Let's see. Okay. If you're getting more into Iron Speed Designer, you definitely want to play with the properties. There's lots of stuff in there, a few adjustments for mobile. But the toolbox is what I want to just touch on here briefly. There's a buttons section, so we could go to where we have the buttons in the mobile page, and you can see we have buttons in there for accessing the menu and so forth. Let me go actually to and add categories, and you can see that the save. There's also a save and new. So we really went for elegance, and we're not, giving a save and new out of the box, but you can. One more question. Okay, I'm going to have to turn it over to Kirill here. Okay, tried to make him through as quickly as I could, but I'm going to turn it over to Kirill. So that's saving. In terms of workflow, yes, you could do the workflow buttons. You could do the same button actions in web, if those make sense. So I'm just going to do one more question here, and then I need to turn it over to Kirill. Will version 9 allow mobile apps to work offline? Actually, similar question asked before about the data set stuff. And I mean, the short answer is no. It's really not meant to address that. You still need to connect to the internet, to get to your web application. Unless you made other arrangements, but that would be the same as for the desktop. So we haven't changed the basic way of how we connect over the internet. So, okay, that's it for now. I don't think that cut me off completely, or I'm going to come back, but I'm going to turn it over to Kirill.
Hello again. Let me try to address non-mobile questions for now. And first of all, before I start with them, I want to tell you that we've got about 5-7 questions with some particular problems some people facing, like some exception happening on the application or something doesn't build up, etc. We will not be addressing right now solutions for any problems which you might have. You need to open support case. We physically don't have any ability to go through each particular exception you get. So I've got several questions with those, and I will not be going through them. So just keep it in mind. Now, can Iron Speed be pointed to a web service and generate front-end interface based on the parameters that the web service expects? No, you cannot just point it to web server and web service and automatically use it as the source of your data. There is a possibility to customize the application and to use web service, of course, but not that you can just use it the same way as you use database. How do you enable full-text search in the SQL Server? You go to the SQL Server, you create a full-text catalog, you right-click. Basically, if you have Management Studio and you have Help button, this click Help button and type full-text search. You would need to effectively right-click and first on the database and create first full-text catalog, and then go to this catalog and add any fields or tables combinations you want to be available for the full-text search. But again, it's more question to Microsoft than to us. There is plenty of help available. Does the full-text database search perform its search through all of the tables in a database? Again, as I said, you have to go to the database and configure specific fields you want to be used in a full-text search. Of course, you can just go and select all the fields. It's possible, but I would definitely not recommend that because what Microsoft does internally in the database, it creates full text search catalog, which is a pretty big one. If you add there all the fields, that would become slow. So I would recommend to use only those fields which really have amount of text where you can perform a search. If it is just index field, you don't want to use full text search catalog for that. Full text search catalog is a pretty big guy in the Microsoft, so don't overuse it. Has the build number changed since initial launch of 9.0 download? The internal build number, which appears on your about dialog, is specific for the every time we create a build effectively. So for now, it's the one which we use for 9.0. If when we release 9.01 or 9.02 or 9.1, this build would be different, but so far it's the only one available. Is there a way to display a chart that is automatically updated as the underlying data changes? For example, display of the current orders placed up to a minute. Well, yes, you just refresh your browser, click F5, and it will, every time you refresh a browser, postback happens, and the new query will be sent to the database, and it will retrieve the data. Just curious, what is the idea behind supporting SQL CE? Excellent question. The main idea was that we needed to support some database which could be shipped together with the application, for example, with the sample application. And traditionally, that role was fulfilled by Access database. Lately, however, Access database imposed several limitations which are really inconvenient. For example, Microsoft decided not to extend its support for 64-bit systems, meaning that there is no LDB provider for Access database on 64-bit machines. For example, you are not able to simply take sample application and upload to the 64-bit SharePoint server because it runs in 64-bit mode. It's just an example. So we were looking for a database which can run in the both 32-bit and 64-bit environment. And SQL CE is effectively the one. Plus, SQL CE has exactly the same structure and easily convertible to normal database and back if you need, I mean, from SQL CE to SQL and from SQL to SQL CE, unless you have views, which is also very convenient. So that was the reasoning, basically. What is the base SQL CE version supported? Is 2.0 supported? No, 3.5 and 4.0. And if you have 3.5 databases, we would suggest to convert them to 4.0. 4.0 is better, faster, more reliable, has more features, easier to install, supported everywhere, and so on. So, but we support both 3.5 and 4.0. Is an Iron Speed Designer runtime needed to run application, or it can be compiled in Visual Studio so application can be run anytime? Of course, as soon as you create an application and build it, so build is essential work. After that, you can take this application, completely forget about Designer, and open it every time in Visual Studio. If you want to modify it in Visual Studio, you can do it. You can run it, compile, you can do everything, because Iron Speed Designer generates absolutely standard .NET application. There is nothing is needed from the Iron Speed Designer at all to run this application. It's a standard application. You can deploy it. You can open a Visual Studio. You can recompile it. You can change it. All of this is, of course, possible. In fact, if you notice right here, there's a big button which says Visual Studio. This button opens this application in Visual Studio. After that, you can close Iron Speed Designer if you don't like it that much. During the conversion from version 8.01 to 9.0, are applications automatically backed up in version 8.01 form? Well, every time when you migrate application from one version to a newer, migration wizard will offer you to back up your application. In fact, it's default setting. So if you just click OK, it will create a backup of your application. And we definitely 100% recommend always to create a backup of any application being migrated. Second thing is that when application is migrated, if you do not modify the page, so meaning that you didn't go to edit mode and change something on the page, then this page would be kept intact exactly as it was before. We will not change this page for you. So if you, for example, just migrate application and run, it will run exactly the same way as it was before. But however, of course, if you go and modify the page, then some new logic, new classes, new code would be generated. Now, there's a question about large list selector, and the team asking if we improved the large list selector functionality in 9.0. In fact, yes, we did. And I know what you're referring to the so-called DFK issue, that what if you applied the special formula to display your foreign key as something different, as a combination of other fields, and in this case, large list selector might not work ideally, meaning the search might not work, etc. Yes, we did address this issue in 9.0, and now you can easily use formulas to display your foreign key as any other field, and at the same time, large list selector search will work, and it will show this formula properly, and the selection will work too. So yes, this was improved in 9.0. I have existing applications written in Visual Fox Pro 9. I can export the data files to CSV format. This is great. Do you provide support for creating application using Iron Speed Designer, and how much does it cost? Well, it is several questions in one, and honestly, I don't have an answer to either of those. Well, Iron Speed Designer, when it creates application, creates its own schema. If you noticed, if you try to use Iron Speed Designer, you will see XML files in each folder for each page you create. Those XML files, it's like internal schema which is used by designer to maintain those pages, to represent them properly, to build, and so on. Obviously, Visual Fox Pro 9 doesn't create such Iron Speed Designer appropriate schema. So no, you cannot just open application created in the Visual Fox Pro in Iron Speed Designer. There is no way, and even if you export it to CSV format. However, if you have just a data in the CSV format, and you want to use those data as a data source. Well, this is a completely different issue, and as of now, I can tell you that automatically Iron Speed Designer recognizes all the databases as data sources. However, it's pretty easy to use a CSV file to read data from. We have customizations for that. It won't be as natural as using a database, but it could be. But it's only regarding data. The application itself, no. You cannot just open it in Designer. Can the email, and how much Designer costs is a good question. You can go to our ironspeed.com product page, and the price will be there. Can the email field in the security wizard be retrieved from Active Directory when using Active Directory security? Because we only store the Active Directory username in our user table. Well, out of the box, if you just generate application and apply use security wizard, no, because security wizard assumes that you have to have this email field in the database, and effectively the functionality internally goes to the database, retrieves the record, and reads this value of the email field from the record. However, it is possible to write not very difficult code customization to retrieve this field from the Active Directory itself. My estimate would be about 20-30 lines of code could do this, but you would need to open support case for that. I cannot help you at this moment because it's not just one line of code. The customizations would be on the sign-in page, of course. Any known issues converting 8.1 application to 9.0? No, there's no known issues converting 8.1 to 9.0. If we knew about any issues, we would most definitely address them already. Again, as I said, there are questions about people getting some errors at some points and some exceptions. I am not able to go through this and debug your applications at this point, so I am not going to answer them. However, I just mentioned that I have 2 or 3 questions about SQL CE related issues. Again, our policy was that if you do not use SQL CE and didn't select this as a database, Designer should run perfectly fine. However, if you use SQL CE as a database, then you have to install actually SQL CE support. It's downloaded. You can download it for free from Microsoft, and we in the help supply the link where you need to go to download it. Now, if you say that in your case somehow you do not use SQL CE, but you still have some compilation issues, well, again, my suggestion: open support case. It should be the case, and we never seen such case in our environment. Or if you, for some reason, can't open support case, the easiest thing to do is literally go to Microsoft and download SQL-C support, install it, and most likely any issue you could see with the compilation will immediately go away. If I have application with right-left language beside English, this is very difficult to read this question. Well, effectively, the sense of the question is, will Iron Speed Designer support the left-to-right, right-to-left transition on the language? And will it support just the labels or also directions of the page? It will support everything. So the page will become justified to the right and to the left, and all the labels go from right to left, and the fields will be populated from right to left. So yes, it changes direction completely. Again, there's a question about SQL-C. This is a question. Is he speaking about the MSI installer? Well, I think this question came a bit later. We're not sure who was speaking and about what. Any plans to support SSRS in current and future SQL versions? We have a lot of plans. I cannot tell you in which particular version, which particular feature would be implemented. Currently, it's not implemented, as you know, and we most likely consider it go into the future versions, but I cannot tell you right now which particular version make a cut. So I can tell you there's a plan, but I cannot tell you, and I can't give you any timeline on this. Can you jump from version 6 to version 9 without migration issues? Well, that actually depends on what you mean by the how you define the what issue. Because yes, of course, the migration from 6 to 9 will not be absolutely pain-free. We would need to, especially if you go from 6.0 or 6.1, because we need to create layout of the page from nothing. In 6.0 or 6.1, only portions of layout were written down in XML files. So we're effectively creating the layout using all the possible information, and for that we're creating all the code. We are trying to do this as smooth as possible, but it was a difficult transition. From 6.2, transition is much smoother, and effectively I would say there is no issues. But if you're going from 6.0, yes, it might be not as easy as we want it to be. How to display the username instead of logon ID in the login section? I'm not sure which login section you are talking about. Maybe about the header where you see hello something. This is pretty easy. You can just go to the header where it retrieves this name and change actually just one line of code, which retrieves the name from the session. In fact, it actually retrieves a name right now, not the ID. However, if your ID and a name is the same, then of course it would be ID. Now, I can of course think that you might use a combination of database security and Windows and so on, and that's why you see not exactly what you wanted, but this is a matter of support case. I cannot go forever about this issue. Open support case. Yes, it's possible. Okay, again, the question about version 6 applications migrating to 9, which you already just said about. Can you touch a little more on public and private keys? He talked so quick that I could not fully understand what has been said. I believe we are talking about the captcha control. We use standard Google captcha control. And to configure this control, you need to supply public and private key, which are available from Google, of course, for free. We could not plug it in ourselves, just because it's kind of will be licensing issue on our part. And secondly, we don't want to put the same public and private key for all thousands of our customers. So all we need to do, if you are planning to use forget password feature, all you need to do is to go to Google website, just search for captcha control. You immediately will see the page where public and private key are available for you. Just copy them and paste them into the property sheet to the right of the control itself, and that would be it. If you do not do it, nothing bad will happen. The application will not blow up, but the captcha control will not show up, and you will see the error when you try to retrieve a password, which will tell you that captcha control is not configured. Now I want to transfer you to Alan Beck. He has several questions to answer as well.
Thanks, Carol. The first question comes from John P., who asks, can I share a single subscription to Iron Speed between myself and one other developer who works for my company? No, definitely not. Can we both work at the same time, or is it necessary to work at separate times? Neither. You really need two licenses. The policy, which I think is very clear, is one developer, one license. It's a named developer license. Marcel asks, how do I use the remember password function when my passwords are encrypted? I've got the forgotten password options finally working. Glad to hear that you've got that working. A lot of times folks will use a formula in there to encrypt and decrypt those. If you're using that mechanism, that's a pretty common way of doing that. If you're using some other mechanism, you might reach out to our tech support team for help. Dave asks, I am using Office 2010, and when I try to use the database on a Win 7 64-bit system, I'm getting an error on trying to load the Access 12.0 drivers. I know this is a problem, but what is the solution? Well, it sounds like you've got a problem with Microsoft Access and Microsoft Office, so I recommend that you contact Microsoft for that issue. If for some reason Iron Speed Designer is involved in this equation, which it doesn't sound like it is in your question, then for a question like that, I might suggest you reach out to our technical support team. Dave S. asks, when using an older database like the southwind.mdb, it comes up with an error on a potential security, etc. We've not encountered anything like that, so you might send your application to our tech support team to take a look at that, but we know of no issues with the Southwind database. That, in fact, is what we include with Iron Speed Designer version 9, and it seems to continue to work just fine. Next, we have a question from Mauro, which is quite possibly the longest question we've ever received because it goes on for more than a page and has SQL queries and table definitions in it. And I think basically asks, can inherit the field more than one from a lookup table? If yes, how to? I think that's probably more a technical support question than something we can ask in a webinar about version 9. So I might recommend you reach out to our tech support team to answer that, and you'll need to transmit, obviously, a full description of the question. John G. asks, can two developer licenses work on the same project at the same time? Absolutely. That happens all the time. It's a fairly common thing to do. In fact, Iron Speed Designer, for a number of releases now, I think since version 7, has even supported integration with source code control systems, which you can find in the build menu of Iron Speed Designer. So yes, it's absolutely designed to do that. Okay, I'm going to switch back now to Jim, who's got some more mobile questions, and we'll keep going round robin here until we get through every question this morning.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Yeah, I'm back. Just a few last questions here, and actually some of these are redundant, so we'll run through them real quick. Tim D, will mobile work on iPad? Yes, you could choose either mobile or full-size pages for the iPad. By default, we send the iPad though to the full-size pages. This will make better use of the larger display on it. If you want to change that, you can. You just go into the web.config file for your generated application, search for iPhone, and you're going to insert an iPad in there with the pipe character. It'll be really clear when you see the syntax in there. Again, web.config, search for iPhone. Next question from Wayne T. Why no support on iPhone? Because there should be an app for that. Actually, we are, of course, supporting the iPhone, and actually that was our biggest test device in terms of priority, and then we moved on to Android midway through the test cycle. But I think he's asking about native app support. So, native apps for Google, Android might not be too bad. To do it for Apple, I've been through the process, and I can tell you it's rather involved getting something approved by Apple. You wait a few weeks, and they say, well, we don't like your icons. Try again. So it's not exactly something we generate an app for you, and you know, you're going to be able to deploy that thing right away. And then it just gets down to your end users. What are they going to go through in order to run your app? So Ben R. asked about does mobile support the graphs, the charting? Yes, absolutely. I touched on that. Essentially, all the features are there. Something's a little bit different with the clicking on the columns in 9.0. Great question here from David W. Are touch events supported, meaning swipe, tap, those types of gestures that are on mobile phones? No, that's not something we put in there. You know, the interface, you know, it's pretty much as you would normally work with on a web page, you know, point and click. But those are features, though, that are actually in HTML5, swiping and that type of thing. They're adding those types of gestures in there. So that's something we're, you know, looking at potentially maybe for the future. Luis P. asked, could I have an application that uses the cell phone camera to take a picture and save it as an image in the database? I answered this earlier. The answer is for Android, no problem. Apple, because the Safari browser does not support file upload, you would use a different browser. And there's at least one browser on the market that can do that. Tim D. asked, repeat what you said just regarding the iPad settings. Again, if you want to customize which devices are treated as mobile, you go into the web.config file for your application and search for iPhone, and you'll see a list of mobile devices there. Next question, David W. Any thoughts on supporting hybrid apps as with PhoneGap to create a native app from the mobile app? Great question. That's something we've looked at, and I think if we went the native app route, that's probably the route we would go by providing a generic app that you could wrap your web app with, and that would give you access to all the hardware features. So PhoneGap is one of the companies out there. There's several that will do that, and they'll do it, you know, for many different platforms. So that's something, you know, potentially we would consider in the future. But we could use the 9.0 functionality as a first step toward that, because we can embed that as a web application in that environment. Next question, Wendy. We're just about done. What about the deployment? Is it the same for both web and mobile? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. And yes, it is the same. That's one great things about it. Lots of people will be using mobile, even if they don't have mobile phones with 9.0, because the pages for mobile are deployed alongside the full-size web pages. It's just another set of pages that just happen to have a smaller layout. So it's not like if you use the SharePoint functionality where you have to deal with the SharePoint server and all its requirements. You have the exact same requirements for mobile as you do for web for the pages. Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, is to actually use your mobile phone device in a corporate environment. That may take you some doing. It's just the nature of the beast. Obviously, you're not going to plug your phone into your T1 line, network line in the wall. You're going to have to go wireless. So you're going to have to, you know, set it up in a wireless network, assuming you have that at work, or use a cell phone network, in which case you're going to have to make your app available on the Internet. So just be aware of that. But the actual deployment of the pages is real easy. And last question here from Arif. Mobile app work on BlackBerry. That's something where it should work on the BlackBerry. The form factor is designed for it. And we do detect the BlackBerry. You'll see that in the web.config file. One thing I'll say there, the BlackBerry, it's primarily been used for messaging, and kind of for good reason, because the web browsers on it have not been very good. They vary, though, depending upon the model, you know, of the unit, and that's one of the challenges there is the diversity of the browsers. So you'd have to really see how it works on, you know, the particular models you'd be targeting. But in any event, we're going to, you know, send the BlackBerries to the mobile pages, which will definitely be better than the large pages. So, as you can see, I could, you know, run on about mobile for hours. And in fact, they decided to give me that opportunity to do that and have a special mobile training session in January. I want to point out this is open to customers who recently purchased Iron Speed, either that they're new customers or they bought an extra seat or even just a month subscription. There'll be a mailing on that, and you can contact your sales rep for details. So this will be 1 hour plus talking just about mobile in the 9.0 feature. It'll be more interactive, questions along the way. You know, definitely not as hurried. I won't be getting the hook pulling me off. And topics I'll be covering I do want to give a detailed walkthrough of the changes to Iron Speed, throughout the product. I didn't touch on that today. I'll talk more about mixing and matching web and full size. I did, kind of show you that at a real high level, but we really didn't get into the details of that. And I'll touch on SharePoint for mobile. And then if you have other ideas on, future mobile features that you'd be interested in, I'd like to hear that. And there'll be a lot more. So please attend that if you're eligible. Thank you.
Despite what you might think, Jim is actually not in our marketing team, although I think maybe a transition is in order here. Let's go to Kirill now, who has a few more questions.
Yeah, I was almost expecting him to make a shout out to his wife and children, or I know, girlfriend, or something like this. I have a couple of more questions. I developed application Iron Speed with Access database and migrated the database schema to SQL, and how I can connect my Iron Speed application to SQL database without having to customize again. Well, transition from one database to another database could be pretty smooth, assuming that your data types are the same. For example, if I have Southwind Access database, which we all do, I can easily convert it to Southwind SQL database and use exactly the same application, just changing the connection string in the web config. And believe it or not, I did it several times while we deployed, for example, exactly the same sample application to the SharePoint, which, as I said before, doesn't support Access. And you can see this application running on the SharePoint on our website. So again, if your data types are the same, then you can just change connection string in the web config. Now, unfortunately, all databases, being Access, SQL, Oracle, MySQL, etc., have their unique data type. So if your database uses your unique data type, well, then it's a bit worse. You can, of course, convert it to SQL, but SQL internally will convert certain data types to his own. And then you need to change connection string, but after that you need to synchronize database. And depending on how much they differ, you will see better or worse results. Hopefully it won't be bad. Hopefully only a couple of tables will change and everything else will work. So, question from Dave. Since you are not going to address the issues that are a problem, are you going to have an entry to a blog or point us to some direction to get same Southwind MDB work in version 9? There are issues. Dave, there are no issues. Seriously, I can create right now in front of you application with Southwind database, and it will work perfectly fine. In fact, we did it, I don't remember how many times, maybe like 100, and it works. So I believe that I believe you that you have issues with making it work, but it's not the issues with working with Southwind MDB. There's something else involved. I'm not sure I know what. And again, open support case that will effectively be the fastest way to resolve the problem. Generally, there are no issues, and I can tell you that by now we know from our logs that more than several hundred customers already created version 9 applications with Access database. How can I modify the sign-in page or exactly the request on success full login? This is one word. Without being replaced when it is upgraded to other version. Well, first of all, sign-in page is not being replaced always. It was only replaced with the migration from certain versions when we completely change the design. For example, if you use 8.01 or 8.02 and upgrade it to 9.0, this page won't be replaced or modified. It will stay the same. This is the first thing. However, if you're going from older versions, yes, there is such a thing that it could be replaced. Then my recommendation is just copy the whole your customization code from your backup file and put it back. I hope that you wrote this customization in section 1 as we usually recommend. And if this is the case, I would say just copy and pasting this code should be sufficient in this particular case. There were no any significant changes to sign-in page per se in 9 or comparing to 8.0.2, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm having problems selecting a value from large list selector, which calls sometimes when I add a detail record, the values get deselected. I kind of think that you also opened a thread in a forum with the same question. because I kind of remember I've seen this particular question in this particular wording over there. If this is the case, then I will just better answer right now to both of them. The thing is that I believe you add in a new record for the field which is rendered in the drop-down list, and then you change something on detail which causes postback. The problem is that when you add a record but you did not save it, it actually sits in a view state, but the postback caused by detail table kind of clear it. So in this particular case, you either need to save it first or do something else, like disable the postback or something else. But effectively, it's not related to the largely selected per se. And again, this is if I think you are the guy who opened the thread on the forum with this particular question. So we kind of spent yesterday some time investigating it. So my suggestion, open support case, because this explanation may be a bit longer than I can afford right now, but it's not actually a largely selector issue. It is a completely different issue, although largely selector also involved, but it's not the guy who causes this problem. Great question. Are there any new page styles? I completely forgot. Yes, we have a mana page style. And I will show you right now because my application is created. Oh, sorry, wrong button. I need to plug into my computer right here. And this is a mana page style. We can look at this right here. And it's the only one new page style in this release, but we believe it's completely different from what it was before. You can see different menus, buttons, color scheme, etc., etc. Of course, new page style are always coming, and every release has more or less new page styles, but this is the one we can see right now. I'm looking on Google for capture control for free public-private keys. I'm not finding it. Is there a URL? Yes, there is URL. First of all, in our online help, this is the easiest way to find. You can open the support case, ask on the forum. People on forum already posted this URL, and we have it in our online help. So either way, you can easily find it. But I don't believe you can find it. It's there. It's easy to find. Just search for private key capture control. Okay, and now we're back to Alan.
Thanks, Carol. I've got the last set of about 6 or 7 questions, so if there are any additional questions beyond the 6 that I have in my hand, please get those cards and letters in. So consider this the 2-minute warning. Paul D. says, LMAO. We didn't know what LMAO meant, so we Googled it here, and according to Wikipedia, it means laughing my ass off. So we're glad to provide a little bit of humor into your day, Paul. We do try to make these events fun and not just technical or boring. So thanks very much. We'll be here all week. Mohammed says, thanks for the interesting webinar. We greatly appreciate that, Mohammed. Thank you. Paul R. says, I purchased Iron Speed 9 and built a horizontal menu, and it is displaying as vertical and sort of messed up straight out of the box. Is there some kind of initial configuration you need to do to Iron Speed to get the horizontal menu to work with Iron Speed debug mode? No, not really. Normally, you would just create the horizontal menu. You can just, either in the left-hand Explorer, create a menu that way, either vertical or horizontal. Typically, you would drag that on to the master page. So normally, you'd go out to the master page level and do that. It's possible, I suppose, that you have something cached, but we've not had any issues with that not working right. If that continues to be an issue, I would always recommend just to handle any caching problems. To exit Designer, reboot your machine, come back. If there's still an issue there, then quite likely you've not added the horizontal menu onto your page in the right place or something. John G. asks, which version will you start to address page load performance for controls like drop lists where record counts are very high? That's a good question. We are aware of that, and we actually are starting to look at a few performance issues, and improving things. I don't know about the status of that one in particular, but we are aware of that. So thanks very much for adding your voice to that. Dave S. says, I am getting a script error, sys.argument null exception value cannot be null, parameter name handler. And he goes on with some more stuff that I don't know that I can quite understand. You might look that up in our online help. We do have online help topics for many things like that. Just simply go in there and use the full text search capability in our online help to look that up. If it's not there, then I think you would need to reach out to our tech support. As it is, this is just an error message, so I don't even know what context you're receiving it in or where it's coming from. So again, if you can't find that in our online help, then I would reach out to tech support. Robert B. asks, is the script resource.axd access denied error message being resolved in version 9? I don't know about that one specifically. That one's a little over my head. If you want to see a list of everything that has been user reported and fixed in version 9, you can simply go to our website, go to the version history page, and look at the release notes. We have detailed release notes on every user-reported bug or issue or suggestion that was implemented or fixed in version 9 there. So there's always a list published with each release that says exactly what we did. Ron G. says, will this webinar be uploaded to YouTube? I don't know. We've had some difficulty in uploading long webinars created by the Citrix platform, so we may attempt to do that, but no promises. If we do upload that, where you will typically find that will be on our video demos page, probably within the next week or so. If you don't see it after then, it's not going to happen. So just keep an eye out on our video demos page on our website. There's a section in the lower right-hand corner over there called Other Webinars or Other Videos. That's kind of a catch-all for these webinars like this one. That's typically where that would be posted, but we probably will try to do that within the next few days. But again, sometimes YouTube kicks the video out for being too long, or I don't know, maybe the jokes aren't good enough. Erland asks, are there new CCW algorithms, meaning code customization wizard algorithms? No, we haven't implemented any new ones in version 9. However, some of these code customization wizard templates, if you will, have actually migrated into Iron Speed Designer's actual features. So, a lot of, over time, a lot of those have already moved into Designer and will continue moving into Designer. That looks like that was the last question here. So I want to thank you all for attending today. You guys have asked a ton of questions. You've been a great audience. And I would like to remind you all to sign up for Jim Dempsey's Building Mobile Applications webinar, which will be next week. So when you get the email for that, please do sign up. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again, and have a great day.